I'm in a relationship, things are going fine, and then she gives me an ultimatum. I want this or it's over. And I think, what the Ultimatums usually come during a relationship, not before. At the beginning, when you're starting to get to know someone, when you're dating, that honeymoon phase, you would hope that you would get under the skin of the other person and find out what's important to them. What are their deal breakers? What they envisage a future relationship to look like? Who they are? Those sort of things. Not afterwards. And so I think things like telling a person your boundaries, what's important to you, things like that. You state those things at the start, and that's great. That's essential. That's what we should be doing. But I think when they come later, they just look like ultimatums. Giving a person your deal breakers, your important values beforehand, when you're getting to know them, that's fine. They let the person know where you stand. But afterwards, in the form of an ultimatum, oh, this is really important to me, it's my way or the highway, then no. An ultimatum is basically holding the relationship at hostage. It's basically saying, give me what I want or you'll never see the relationship again. They're having to make you choose between the path they want and that they insist the relationship head towards and the path that you're on that you might be comfortable with. Or you thought you were heading one way and she decides to send it another way. It's basically relationship blackmail when you think about it. They tear up the old contract and they hand you a new one. And you can't say anything about them tearing up the old contract. And it also bears in mind, how are you supposed to trust this person in the future where it got to this point and you were blindsided by her just tearing up the contract, not thinking anything of it, and demanding that you sign a new one? Who's to say she doesn't tear up this one in the future? How are you supposed to trust this person? That's another question. Examples in my past were, yeah, I know you said you didn't want kids and I agreed that it was okay not to have kids, but you know what? I want kids now. This is my ultimatum. I know I said I didn't want this, but now I want it. I know I said I wanted this, but now I don't want it. I know I agreed with you with what you wanted, but you know what? I was just doing it to keep you happy.
Because I'm such a nice person.
Or I agreed with you before because I didn't want you to leave me. So what now? Now you tell me your honest feelings on the subject after I'm in love, after we've spent all this time together building a relationship into the future. Ultimatums to me from exes usually signified something like a boiling pressure cooker of things left unsaid, where eventually it gets too much and she has to let it out.
I just can't be silent anymore. I want this, or it's over.
Whenever an old girlfriend of mine blew up with these exaggerated ultimatums, like the cliche ones we've all heard of, like her flying off the handle because you left one of your socks on the ground or you didn't leave the toothpaste in the correct way. I always think, this isn't about the toothpaste. This is about something you're hiding that you haven't communicated to me. This is about something important. These are one of those things where there's a conversation. We need to talk. And look, it doesn't help that women's default nature is passivity and avoidance. They can stay silent during the dating phase and find themselves in a committed relationship, and by the time the guy's in love with this passive, agreeable person, she's comfortable enough to start revealing who she is. And of course a guy feels uncomfortable and slightly, if not a lot, betrayed by her now revealing what her real virtues and values are. And it's like, where was this at the start? And when I come to think of it, it's probably at the heart of the cliche that women complain and nag and push their boyfriends, they're always dissatisfied. It's because they leave so much honesty unsaid. They keep it in. They don't reveal really what they want because they don't want to be responsible for it. And it just builds up like a pressure cooker until they pop and it becomes an ultimatum. And that's about the only time they're forced to be honest and responsible. But by then it's too late. It's a cowardly expression of their virtues because they've been forced into a corner because they can't live like this anymore. And this passive nature for me with women is frustrating because they don't really need to show their cards. All they need to do is show their bodies and not their honesty, and they lock themselves into a future relationship with someone who's completely blind to who they really are and what they really want. if they could just be honest at the start, like men tend to be, because we have to express ourselves to a certain degree and make her laugh and make her feel safe and show more or less who we are so that she feels safe enough to say yes to us, to go home with us, to have a relationship with us, to set a future with us. So men generally have to be more honest. And it's just a shame that my exes wasted so much of their own time by just not acknowledging what they eventually acknowledge later on through an ultimatum. Just voice your virtues right at the beginning through polite conversation with someone you're getting to know. I know you like the person, but it doesn't need to become an awkward ultimatum 3 months or 6 months down the track. But again, I was expecting too much of the bimbos I went out with. So what did the ultimatums from my past girlfriends show me? It showed me that I'm going to be selfish now, midway through the relationship when we're established and we've both got a lot to lose, rather than being selfish at the beginning where it's functionally and maturely responsible to do so. You lay all your cards out on the table so that all the decisions we do make, if we decide to forge a path together and commit to each other, it's much more based on honesty rather than this kind of romantic notion of,
I didn't say anything before because I was being nice, because I knew you'd get upset like this.
well, of course I'm annoyed, because you lied to me. You lied about who you were fundamentally at your core in terms of what drives you as a person and what's important to you. If we flipped it around, you would have every right to be upset at me, at changing direction. But I think most women are annoyed that men just don't say yes to them like they always have been. It's easy to say yes to you when you're being falsely agreeable, but the mature thing to do is just lay your cards out in the open at the beginning to avoid these awkward, painful conversations and waste of time. Life's too short. And the ultimatum is basically a crossroads saying, I want this, and if I don't get what I want, it's over. I don't care what you want. I'm going to make myself happy with or without you. I don't know if partly they feel justified, saying, well, I suffered in silence for the first 6 months, not saying anything, being agreeable, and now I'm just being honest with my truth. It's like, I would have been honest with your truth too if you stated it at the beginning, and we would have stayed together, or we would have parted ways, but you could have stayed with your truth. I wouldn't have denied you your truth. So as far as I'm concerned, you don't get to play the virtuous person of, I was so nice, that's why I didn't say anything. No, it's because you were cowardly and passive and made the decision to lie to me about the glue that held us together. Look, I suppose the only good thing that comes out of ultimatums is that at last a woman is honest. I think that ultimatums are one of the rare moments that women are actually honest, because the pressure cooker is just too much that they pop and they can't coast by as cowards anymore. And so the honesty comes out. But it's way too late. So what's the solution? Well, I think you never have to give ultimatums if you're always talking openly and honestly. If you're always expressing what's important to you, confiding in the person about who you are, what you like, what you don't like. You don't have to be mean, and you also don't have to sugarcoat it romantically. So if you're always talking about these things all the time, and you let the person know over and over again, hey, when are we going to do this? Or I don't appreciate this, over and over again in a nice way, in a fun way. And then it gets to a point where it becomes more and more serious. It's not going to come out of nowhere like this earth-shattering ultimatum. You can decide to state that we've discussed this over and over again. And so there's a mature way to do these things, rather than staying silent and cowardly to keep the peace and then living in quiet desperation until you pop like a pressure cooker. Let me know your comments in the comment section below, guys, about your experience with ultimatums with past girlfriends. Please join the channel, subscribe, and share this video with someone you think might enjoy it. And I'll catch you in the next video, guys. Bye.